about 360-degree video processing and workflow, what we're really talking about is the idea of capturing the full 360-degree video of an event on a camera that might be anywhere from 2 lenses up to around 8 lenses. And then we stitch those images together to form a 360-degree video. Now, before the day of cell phones with panoramic mode, many of you will have been used to have taken several different photographs and then going on your PC with some stitching software and stitching those images together to make yourself a panoramic shot. That's essentially what we're doing with 360-degree video. We are taking the images from all these different camera lenses and forming a spherical 360-degree view of the video that we're trying to capture. And then ultimately we deliver that content to a consumer device. Now that might be a head-mounted display that we put on our face and watch the screen there, but we can also view 360-degree video on flat screen devices, whether that's mobile phone, tablet, cell phone, computer, or even a TV with a dongle where we can use the control to scroll around. Now you can have the magic window view, where as we rotate the device, we're looking at the bits of video caught from the camera, or we can have the flat screen mode where you can just stay stationary and then swipe around the screen to move the angle of video that's been viewed at that particular time. And it's important that we mention that you can view that video both on the head-mounted but also flat screen, because it's the flat screen viewing mode that enables us to deliver 360-degree video experiences as a companion service to today's 2D broadcasts. So there are a number of different applications for 360-degree video. The first of these is with sport, and this is more about providing a viewer and a fan of sport material with a better view of being there inside the experience of the content, inside the experience of the sport. And the flat player allows us to send for someone to watch normal 2D broadcast, but then use their companion device, phone or multi-screen device, to access the 360-degree screen as a second companion screen and get a different experience at the same time. So for example, here we have some Formula 3 sports racing, camera mounted in the car. I could be watching my normal 2D broadcast of this race, but at the same time I could be in control of the viewing angle that's coming from this in-car camera, and therefore get my own experience, particularly what's going on in the race, look to see if my favourite driver is about to be overtaken by somebody else, and when that overtake is starting to happen, then I can watch that for myself on the companion device while seeing the normal 2D coverage that's been broadcast as regular TV broadcast. The other area, for example, is in places like soccer. So here we have again a unique view, so we put a camera out onto the field as the players are coming out, but as well as the video footage, you can also insert other video into the 360-degree video. So this view that we see here on the screen is artificial. It's an insert of the 2D live broadcast that was going out in the television. So this virtual jumbotron of a feed that was been inserted into the 360-degree field is part of the things that you can do in the tiling and the stitching of 360-degree video experiences. Then we have other areas like music, whether that's classical music, pop concerts, music festivals. Again, you can provide some of the best seats in the house, or even a unique seat in the house that many people experiencing music would not have done before. So in this recent televisation of a music concert, here the camera is on the stage, and now you're getting very much a new perspective of being a member of the orchestra rather than just somebody sitting in the audience watching this classical music. So here we get a unique experience here of what it's like to be the other side of that conductor while that classical music concert is going on. And another new genre and area that's increasingly growing in popularity now is the coverage of eSports. And with eSports coverage, what we can do here is provide access to viewing of eSports televisation, provide access to seeing the different teams competing in that eSport event, provide all of the screens of those individual players, as well as in-game footage, the in-game rendered footage from inside the games as well. And by presenting it within a 360-degree sphere, what we can do for the eSport fan is allow them to self-curate, to make a decision for themselves as to what they're watching. Is it my team on the left that's my favourite, or is it their arch rivals, the team that's playing on the right, while also watching all of the game footage as well. And so again, you're seeing this example here of a 360-degree camera capturing the atmosphere of the eSports event while providing all of the camera, the viewer views. I can see the players' faces. If I was to scroll around, I can see the in-game footage, I can see the game map. And so when tested with some professional eSport players, they found this experience to be particularly compelling for a way to watch eSport type content. And again, this could all be done on a flat screen player rather than needing to use a head-mounted display to view 360. There are other applications with 360 in the area of education and telepresence. Now, telepresence needs low latency, but there are a number of applications both for business, virtual meetings, as well as for entertainment. Can I create a virtual viewing space where myself and my buddies can get together and watch that soccer match on a Saturday afternoon together, even though we're not physically in the same location at the same time. Education-wise, there's been some learnings that show that when people view education through a more immersive environment, for example, being inside a 360-degree view of a lecture, then the brain stores that experience differently because you've got more of a feeling of being there in that experience rather than just passively sitting back and watching. And that aids memory retention, and actually learning through being involved in an immersive experience has shown to be better remembered and better stored in the human brain. But the key here, if we're going to offer 360-degree services and take on that expense of production and streaming of 360-degree format, is ultimately how do we monetize that experience. Now, some of it can come from service differentiation. If I'm able to offer a better or different experience for my content than my competitors, does that get me new subscribers? Does that get me new viewers? Does it get me more viewers to increase my advertising revenue? The other possibility is chargeable enhancement. So I add there's extra streams onto my package and get people who are real sports fans to pay for more access. Or you get the higher fan engagement for leagues and other entities like that that are looking to really reward their fan loyalty with a better experience. One of those other spaces is advertising. And here we can see just on the edge of this video here, this Easy Credit logo. When we were setting up for this sport, that logo wasn't there. The league came along to see what we were doing, see what the views were that were coming out of the 360 cameras. They immediately spotted that opportunity to put additional advertising onto the basket there, and 10 minutes later somebody was up a ladder putting those logos onto the back of the basket before the live televisation went out. And in areas where advertising can be sold by the square inch or the square centimetre, like in NASCAR and other areas like that, 360-degree video is giving a lot more space in which to place static advertising. And then, as we've seen in some of the videos before, we can do digital video insertion, whether it's 2D, advertising, graphics, so a lot of opportunities to add advertising into 360-degree video as well. Now, for the 360-degree consumer experience, the current consumer devices, particularly the head-mounted displays, are somewhere between high definition and 2.5K resolution. Now, when we're viewing 360-degree, we're only viewing a small viewport of that entire 360-degree video. We're only viewing about 15% of the overall 360-degree video. So if I've got a HD resolution head-mounted display, then realistically I probably need to capture at the camera side somewhere between 6 and 8K resolution to give the best quality and the best experience onto that HD or better resolution consumer display. And that presents really three main challenges. The first is the production and delivery infrastructure, particularly for live. How do I deliver a 6 or an 8K stream to consumers with a production infrastructure? The second is the delivery bandwidth needed to deliver that experience to the consumer, particularly for head-mounted displays, where now the display is very close to the eyeball that's going to be viewing that. And so some of the compression techniques, the way we've been able to hide and save bitrate, become more visible as artifacts when you have a screen placed that close to the viewer's experience. And the third problem is really consumer device compatibility. If we want to go to 6K or 8K resolution, then what sort of consumer devices are going to be capable that can actually support the decode of that sort of resolution in HEVC video compression? Now for file-based 360-degree video, what's typically happening is that the image cameras, the image has been captured off the cameras, lenses, it's been stitched together into an equirectangular presentation of 360-degree video, and then we can do a file encode. And we can do a file encode at 4K, 6K, 8K, 10K resolutions, put those assets onto a store, and then allow the consumer devices to download those assets into local memory before they start playback. So that file downloading overcomes the network bandwidths of delivery to the consumer, and because we have different resolution files, then we can get different device compatibility depending on what the resolution and decode capability is of the consumer device. Now for most live 360-degree streams, up until now, they've generally been restricted to 4K or less resolution. One of the reasons for that is access to commercially available production, contribution and live encoding solutions that can handle 4K or higher resolution. Then adaptive bitrate streaming has typically been used to deliver that 4K image to the consumer, so overcoming the final mile network bandwidth delivery by using adaptive streaming. And by keeping it at 4K or less resolution, then we've got a reasonable level of consumer device compatibility. And it's those endpoints, particularly consumer device compatibility and the production equipment for live capture, that has really limited live 360-degree delivery to 4K resolution or less. Now recently some other techniques have come along, and in particular tiled 360-degree video delivery. This uses OMAF for the omnidirectional multimedia format, late bonding techniques that are in some of the standards, and compression formats like HEVC, AV1 and the new versatile video codec all support OMAF type decoding. So rather than sending the entire 360-degree image to the consumer, what we do is we tile up the 360-degree image into much smaller images, which can then be independently encoded, which lends itself to also cloud-based processing. We then take into each of those tiles, they're individually encoded and published onto an asset store in a CDN. And at the decode device at the consumer end, only the tiles needed to fill that 15%, that viewport area, need to be downloaded over the delivery network to the consumer. Those tiles are then bound back together inside the decode device and then sent to the device's decode chip or software decoder to do the final image display. So the benefit of this type of technique is the first, delivery bandwidth efficiency. Because we're only downloading the viewport area onto the consumer device, then we can become much more bandwidth efficient for the delivery of 360-degree video. So typically for a 6K or 8K resolution 360-degree video captured at the camera, we only need something like 12, maybe 15 megabits of network delivery speed to get that experience to the consumer. Because we're only decoding the resolution or enough tiles to fill the display capability of the consumer device, then actually we can do a much higher resolution capture of 360-degree video and get much more compatibility with consumer devices, because the consumer device decode only needs to cover enough capability to decode the HD or better resolution to display on a local device. Now because we're now delivering tiles only over say a 12 meg or 15 meg network connection to the consumer, we can also get much higher quality. We can capture a 6K or an 8K experience of the camera, deliver over 12, 15 megabits, and so resolution to bit efficiency is much higher as well, and therefore we get much better quality of experience and quality of video to the consumer displays as well. Now all of this concept of tiled video delivery has been built into an ecosystem called ClearVR by Tiled Media, and this defines a complete end-to-end ecosystem for doing tile-based 360-degree video decoding, including SDKs for both Android, iOS, and shortly for PCs as well. So it becomes a complete ecosystem for doing tile-based 360-degree video delivery. Now for MediaKind, we offer Cygnus 360-degree events as a service. This is a new offer from MediaKind, and this is essentially a as-a-service cloud-based video processing solution for 360-degree video events. What we offer is really two main components. At the production site where the live event is going to be happening, you have the cameras, you have the image stitching and production, and then we provide an app, a sender app, which will take the 360-degree video out of the production stitching environment and push that content up into the cloud. Typically at around 150 megabits per second for a 6K or 8K capture from the camera and going through the production stitching server. In the public cloud, we then do all of the cloud-based video processing. So we take the image, we cut it up into tiles, we encode all of those tiles individually with HEVC video compression, we package all of that together and then publish that out to an origin publishing point for the CDN. And then the consumer devices with the appropriate SDK inside them are then able to access those streams over a public CDN and access very high quality 360-degree video. And this is hosted and operated by MediaKind, offered as a service and billed by the hour for video processing. Now under the hood here, we have a lot more detail, particularly about the sender, and now we can have multiple workflows. So as well as supporting a workflow that deals with tile-based video processing in the clear VR format, we can take the same video, so captured once in a single capture resolution, and when we bring that video back into the cloud-based video processing, we can also do resolution conversion and full ERP encoding to also push that same content out into social media platforms as well. So if you want to maximize reach, you want to also continue to maintain compatibility with people who historically have been looking at ERP and social media based delivery with 360, you can do that with this parallel workflow at the same time as offering a much higher quality experience with tile-based 360-degree video. And the similar workflows can be applied to 5G systems as well. So here we could take the camera feed, we could uplink that camera feed over 5G backhaul, and then place all of the production and stitching environment also into the cloud. So we could move this to a complete remote production, cloud-based workflow for production and encoding, and that allows the camera equipment out on site to become extremely portable, whether it become cameras mounted in car, whether it becomes news crews who are out covering 360-degree news events without having to have any of the rest of the production infrastructure out on site with them. And just to do a final few credits, particularly for the videos that were shown here. So for Deutsche Telekom, who's provided a number of these test environments, but also now the commercial streaming of both music and sports across their various apps. In VR, VDale and Magnum as production companies that we've worked with on a number of these different areas. Voices for the stitching, VR stitching software, and also for the eSports content there. Tiled Media as the producers for the clear VR format, and also some of these slides from my esteemed colleague, Ollie Barron. Thank you.